I see three people are looking, so let's wait for at least a few more. Let me know in the chat if you can hear anything. Hear me? If the audio is fine. Uh, let's see that you don't have. Oh yeah, live chat over here. Not sure if you can hear me. Just let me know in the chat or write on Discord. So it's 8 minutes past 6. So let's wait 2 more minutes and then we will start. Okay, Mike is getting in and out. I see. Here, I see. So so let's give it a shot now. Is it better? Yeah, the mic is most likely going to be a little bit noisier because I turned off the AI noise removal, but I guess better have a little bit noisier audio than no audio at all. Okay, so sorry for the weird mic behavior, and let's get started. So in this walkthrough, we will go over how to create a project, how to add the dialog system, and how to actually create your own dialog. So first things first, let's go to the actual launcher. Let me move it away, this window, and install the dialog system to your engine. I'm going to use 5.1, but the logic applies to every single version of Unreal, no matter what version you are using. So let's install to 5.1 and let's wait a second until it's downloaded and installed. If you're using the GitHub version, it's actually a very similar process. The only difference is that you need to go to the GitHub page and manually download the release from releases, either 5.5, 5.1, depends on your Unreal version. So the plugin is installed. So let's create a new project. I'm going to use an example here. I'm going to use the third person. I got it a name already, and I'm going to use the blueprint version. So there is no C++ needed at all. So let's create, and let's wait a second until the project is compiled. In the meanwhile, I've prepared a very... Oh, I forgot about today's compilation. Sorry for that. I've prepared a small dialog for you. It's a few lines of code that will include a very simple branching, and this example will be here on mostly to showcase the actual setup of the dialog itself. This walkthrough is not going to replace in-depth tutorial. It's going to be mostly just going on the top and showing how to actually do things, as a lot of people on Discord are having the same issues, the same troubles. So hopefully this stream will resolve most of those issues. Okay, so let me move the mic a little bit closer, and let's add a little expander over here. Okay, I've updated the microphone so it should be a little bit louder. It should be a little bit easier to hear. Not sure about the noise in the audio. If it still persists, sorry for that. the mic is currently on its limit. Great, great. Yeah, this is basically my very first stream, so sorry for this very slow setup. Maybe if we do a little bit more of those, it will get better in over time. Okay, great. So we are getting to the actual project now. So let's get started. How to actually get the plugin working? Uh, First things first, we need to go to plugins, and how to actually identify that the plugin is not installed is very simple. First of all, there is a no button in the toolbar. Uh, and the second thing is you didn't get any pop-up. So let's go to plugins. And you can see in the plugins there is category Mountea framework, and in here is the dialog system. So let's check it on and restart project. So yeah, this is the pop-up I'm talking about. This should show only the very first time you open the project with the current version. Uh, this works the way that when the project loads, it's going to take a look what's the current project that you have locally installed and what's the latest project on GitHub. And if you have older or newer version, then it's going to show the pop-up. Uh, you can ignore most of the buttons. The most important one for you is the close window. And then now uh, you have this beautiful button in the toolbar. This button in the toolbar is there to provide as much useful information in the engine as possible. Current version that's on the fab does not include the tutorial page. I'm waiting for Epic to release the hotfix for you. It's taking them a little bit more time than usually. So those buttons, those first two buttons are for you most important because you already are in the engine and you will most likely know the Discord server. The first button gets you to project settings, where you need to set up the dialog configuration. That's the very first thing you should do every time you create a new project and use the dialog system. So let's use the default configuration. In, in the project settings, this is basically the only thing you need to do. You can, of course, create your own configuration, or you can modify the existing one. However, keep in mind that if you modify the existing configuration, it will get overridden if there is an engine update. there is unfortunately no way how I can avoid this situation. Every time there is an update, every single configuration file, every single widget blueprint, basically everything what's in the plugin folder will get overridden with the new version. So want to use, if you want to use content from the plugin, uh, best the best practice is always to go to the folder where the content is, where the content where the content is, and either duplicate or create subclasses of the existing content. Do not directly use existing content from the plugin itself. So let's go to the second button. This one is actually not that important. There is one thing that is important for you, and that's the gameplay tags. In the category gameplay tags, there is an URL that you can verify it's no malicious content. This goes directly to the GitHub, and it downloads the gameplay tags from GitHub repository. So if we go project settings and we go to gameplay tags, you can see there are none right now. So what we need to do, we actually need to restart the plugin to get those tags inside for the very first time. So let me close the project and let me open the project again. And why is this important? We'll get to this in a second. The main reason is because those gameplay tags that are being downloaded from this file are actually the keys which are defining who is which participant. You can have participant with whatever name. Actually, the name of the participant can change during the gameplay. You can have participant with name unknown, and once you know him, the name can change, but the gameplay tag, its unique identifier, will remain the same. If we go to gameplay text, you can see now there's category Mountea dialog, participants, NPC, Aria, and Lily. So as you can see, those values have been downloaded from web. For future versions, I will try out to make this automatically updated, so you don't need to restart the engine every time there is gameplay text update. That was the most important thing from the settings. And if you're coming from older versions of dialog system, you might need to download the replacement JSON as well. The replacement JSON is used to replace broken nodes. All you need to do is click on the button, click yes, and in a second it's going to download the JSON from GitHub as well. You can open the folder where it's located, or you can directly modify the file in your IDE of choice. I think that we won't need to go over this feature in the stream. We will take a look at this feature in future streams if there is a request for that. If you want to avoid automatic download of those gameplay tags that I've shown before, just simply uncheck this boolean. The rest in those settings are related to visual experience of the dialog graph itself, and you can simply ignore it, maybe just set things differently, but honestly most of this can be ignored and left as it is right now. So let's get actually to create some dialog. If I hit play in this third-person environment, you can see that there is nothing to do except I can just bump into those little cubes. So let me add an NPC into the level. In the board settings, there is a default pawn class that you can use and you can move it into the level. You can place it here, and if I hit play, you can see there is other layer. I can't process it, just there. So what we can do is we can open the blueprint. Keep in mind that this is overly simplified logic, please. This is not 100% made finished game. This is just simplified version. So what we need to do for this NPC, we actually needed to add a participant component. This Mountea dialog participant. The participant itself will not be visible anywhere in the map. It's just a data component basically, and it has some variables that need to be set. First things first, if you want to have a dialogue with your NPC, the NPC needs to have a dialogue graph. So let's use the test dialogue graph for now. Then there is a default participant state. That's the participant state that's going to be set when you start the game in the begin play event. If you set it on enabled, the dialogue is allowed to get started. If you set it to disabled, the participant will not be enabled to start a dialogue with, and you can't set it to active. Well, you can, but it's not. It won't work because active must be set only by starting the actual dialogue. Then there is identification for the audio component. An audio component, imagine that as the, basically as a mouth of the NPC itself, or the participant itself. It's basically from where the audio is being played from. You can use an actor tag or a name of a component. So if I select the mesh and add audio, it's the very first component. It's this one, and you can attach it to a head, and you can see now the audio component is where NPC's head is located. I can call it NPC audio, and I can copy the name of the component. Now, if I go back to the participant, you can just place the name of the audio component here. Other way how to do things, if I close every single one of those, you have components tag. Here you can add the NPC audio tag. It's just a plain text, and it will work the very same way. And now the very last very last setting that you need to set up is the actual gameplay tag. And in here we are saying, hey, this is an NPC. We can say, hey, it's Lily, for example. And this will basically define that this specific NPC is a Lily. If you want to define this per NPC in their base classes, or you want to define this in the game in the level itself, it's up to you. You can select the NPC in the level, go to details, go to the participant, and you can change this to different value, and it can differ from the base value from the base class. So if I save everything and hit play, you can see that nothing really happened. There is no dialogue happening, nothing. That's as expected, though. First of all, I lost my NPC for some reason. Never mind. Let's move it in here, and let me quickly save current level as something different. Let's call it dialog map and save it here. Okay, thank you kindly. So here we go. For some reason I have two NPCs, fine. And you can see this is just an NPC here. And as you saw, there was no dialogue when I got close to the NPC itself. There is one very specific reason for that. If I go to Word settings, you can see that I'm using the default class, which is this one that we just modified. But that's not a player. That's just the default blueprint which comes from the template, and this blueprint has no idea how to actually start the dialogue. What would I suggest every single time to all of you is go to the dialogue plugin, which if you have the plugin installed to engine from the launcher or FAT, is going to be an engine. It's in here, and I would always suggest to use those core classes, and or use from the example the game mode. If I go to Word settings and now change the game mode to the one from the example, and I save everything and hit play, you can see I have a different body than I had before, because this is no longer the default third-person character. This is actually player pawn dialogue testing. Why is this important? Let me open the blueprint editor and let me explain. First things first, in the begin play, we are adding a dialogue mapping context. The dialogue, close the game. The dialogue mapping context, I go to the definition. It contains a mapping for skipping the dialogue. Then this is the movement. This is basically copy pasted. But what do we do here is this is actually interactable. So let me copy the stack and let me add it to this NPC. You can search for tags, for actor tags, and you can add new tag in here and just save the map. What does this do is when we overlap with other actor, it's going to ask if there is an interactable tag in the other actor. If yes, then we simply ask if we are overlapping ourselves. If no, then we get the component, the dialogue participant component from the other actor. And if the other actor has the participant component, we call function start dialogue from player. This very part is basically simulating the interaction that you would most likely have in your game, like get close to an NPC, press F to start dialogue, or press E to start dialogue. So then we call the function start dialogue from player, which might look very complex, but it actually is not. There is just a bunch of validations you can see here. There is a lot of returnings. And what does it do? In the beginning, we are again checking if we are not overlapping with ourselves. If we can indeed execute cosmetic events. Cosmetic events means if you are a dedicated server, you cannot start dialogue, because dedicated servers are basically just, servers behind the actual game. Those are not players. Then we ask if the other player has a participant interface, and if yes, then we ask if it can actually start the dialogue. You cannot start dialogue if you already are in a dialogue or if you are disabled. So if you have a disabled participant, then you won't start the dialogue. It will exit in this return node. Then we ask if the player participant can start the dialogue, if it can participate in dialogue. Then we try to get the player state. Then from the other actor, we get the player of the dialog participant component. And once everything is ready, we call request start dialog. I know it looks very complex, but it's indeed very, very simple. We just ask, hey, can the NPC start dialog? If yes, can the player participate in the dialog? If yes, is the are both participants valid? If yes, get the player state, and if the player state exists, let's start the dialog from the player state. So in theory, if I hit play now and get close to the NPC, I should get the dialog right now. But as you can see, there is nothing happening. So let's take a look what is going on. Easiest way how to find out what is going on, if you this is the dialog character, I need to take a look in here, is pressing F9 on the keyboard is going to add this hexagon. It's called breakpoint, and it basically will trigger every time you get close to other NPC or other object. As you can see, it's not triggering anything because I can still move my mouse. So let me add simple collision sphere, and I will add it to the mesh itself. Let's add, okay, so let's add a box collision. Let's scale it up a little bit. So, and we need to add it. I think we can even keep these settings as they are right now. So if we get closer to this NPC, you can see the breakpoint got triggered and I'm finally here. So if you press F10 on keyboard, you can jump to the next part and you can actually see how your code works. This way, you see that, hey, we actually have attack on the other actor, on the NPC. We can execute cosmetic events. And now, if you want to see what's happening in this function, you need to press F11. And in here, the easiest thing you can do is select the very bottom and press F9 again, and press this green icon. This will basically skip to the next breakpoint if the breakpoint gets executed. As you can see, we got to this part, so I'm going to press F9 again. It's going to remove the breakpoint and continue the execution. Let me move this window away, and as you can see, I have the dialog. It was this simple. Well, it's not that simple all the time, because this is the dialog which is a part of the example. You go here and remove the tag. In the Mountea category, we have the dialog. So if we go to the dialog itself and we open it, it's going to open a different window. This is the definition of the dialog, how it looks like, how it executes, everything. So we saw that this is working just fine, but this is already existing and it didn't help. It doesn't help much making your own, right? So let's make a new one. So let me close everything and let's go to the folder that we have created with the dialog map. And in the Mountea dialog category, let's add a new Mountea dialog tree. Now let's give it let's call it a stream dialog. So if you open the newly created dialog, as you can see, the start dialog node is already there. So let's add some child nodes to it. And you can do it by pressing the right key on the mouse. And here you have a list of nodes that you can add. if you hover over any of those, it's going to give you a short tooltip about the node itself. So in this case, you're going to use the lead node, and you simply connect them by drag and dropping the arrow from this little gray bar to this top gray bar. And now, you say there is invalid data selected. So what do we do now? Well, you can select an existing table, or you can create a new table yourself. So let's create a brand new table because we are making a new dialog. We're going to make the table in here, and the hotfix is not there yet, so we need to do it the old way. So right click in the menu, let's go to miscellaneous, and here let's select data table. Now in the pick row structure, you need to select the data, the structure that defines the data table. And if you type dialog, is the dialog row. This will be much simplified in the next hotfix. So now we have created a new data table. Let me quickly save it and open the table. In here, we are defining the dialog itself. So let's add a new row. And in here, you can see you have option to override subtitles. You see the actual GUID of the row itself. And there is a place where you put the text of the dialog, and it's in the dialog row data. As you can see, there is the dialog text, which I just copy pasted from external source, and you can specify the participant name, the title of the row. So let's use this. And now you need to specify the participant. So let's say this is Lily. Okay, so this is Lily, and she will say this exact row. We are not using any sound for this one, so let's use override option. It's going to use the duration override value as the duration for the dialog row. So let's put 6. Better put 6 on both. I don't really, from right now, I don't really know which one which defines the actual duration. I believe it's the row duration. So let's put 0 in here. And right now there is execution behavior right below this attribute. And there are 3 options. It's automatic, therefore you don't care about any inputs or anything. You can await input. If you select await input, unless you press the skip button, it will never execute the next row. So if I have 2 of them, it will not be re-uploaded, but there will be the video once I stop the stream. The video will be available on the YouTube channel, and on Discord I will paste the link so everybody can see the video. I hope it helps. So if you want to get to this dialog example in your dialog from this message, you would need to press an input on your keyboard. So most of the time, like 99% of the time, just keep it on automatic, and once this row finishes, it will automatically jump to the next one, unless there is none. So in this example, if once this is finished after 6 seconds, it will finish the whole dialog node and it will jump to the next one, or let you select an answer. So let me create the dialog for you. So let's add a new row. This is going to be NPC01. This is going to be player 01. So in here, I just select player as the participant tag, and I select the text here. In the row title in here, I will type curious question, if I could type. Okay, you will see in a second what does it mean. So let's add a new one. It's going to be NPC02. And let's add a lily again. Let's add a new row and let's copy the text there. Let's give it 12 seconds duration. I forgot about this, so let's add 5 seconds in here. I think you get the point. This is how you create your dialogue. I know it might look not funny at all, but this is actually how dialogues are being created. For example, in AAA studios, you have a structure which defines all the data, and if you find out during testing that there is an error or some typo or anything, all you need to do is to go to the definition of the text, either to the string table or to this very row, and you just fix it in one place, and you don't need to search for 25 different places. For example, if this was if there was an option to write the text in. So let's continue making the dialogue. We have the NPC here, and you can see the new data table that we created a few minutes ago. It's already here, and as you select the data table, you can select the row name, and it's going to be the NPC01. And as you can see, here is the preview. It's localized, so if your engine is in Chinese or in German or whatever, and you have localization for your dialogues, it will show in the localized version in here. So we can save, and we can create a new node, which will be the player's answer. Now, if I save it, you can see there is a warning. You don't need to click the message log. All you can click on the validate graph, and it's going to show you this fancy validation, which says, hey, the answer node doesn't have any data table and it doesn't have any row. That means that in this answer node, you don't have anything selected. So let's fix that and select the player and save. And one very important thing, again, it's fixed in the hotfix, which is waiting for Epic's approval. You should check the gameplay text in here every single time. In the next hotfix, it won't be necessary, but so right now it is indeed needed to make sure that the dialogue is working as expected. So this is very basic dialogue. So let's add the very last one. It's a node complete dialogue, and we will use the NPC's answer in here. And let's save it. And I don't like how it's aligned in here, so let me auto arrange everything. Optional dialogue. Let me finish this one, and then we will take a look on the optional dialogue after that. Okay. So now we have this stream dialog. If I select this NPC, and I can move the stream dialog in here, just be sure that in the data table you have the same participant tag as the NPC itself in here, because now it's Lily, so we need to change it to Lily. And if we press play and go to Lily, I have the breakpoint here, so let me remove it and let's continue. You can see that we have the dialogue which corresponds to this text, and now the player can select the curious question. If we select the player's row, you can see this is the row title, so you can actually define what are the labels of those selectable options. After I select curious question, is going to print out this text, and then it will jump to NPC and it will print out this text. So let's give it a shot. And because this was the very last one, the very last node, you can see I can move again and the dialog has finished. So let me close it. The dialog, the complete dialog, as you saw there. I will show you how to add the skip option to the dialog in a second. As you saw, there was a selectable option in the complete dialog. It's because the complete dialog expects to be a player's input. You can actually select the auto start to true, and that will override the waits for input. So if we try it again, you can see I can ask the question right away as a player. It's going to take a second, and after that's finished, it immediately started the very last option, the complete dialog, and it's going to finish itself right after that. And as you can see, we are out of the dialog again. So let me actually add one more option in here. It's going to be player again. And let's give it a text and give it some duration. And let's give it a very long duration, like 100 seconds. By the way, this is in seconds. Every single unit in the dialog is meant to be in seconds unless specified otherwise. So let's save it and let's add it. Let's delete this this arrow by holding Alt key and left pressing on the arrow. Now let's create new NPC node, which is going to be the NPC 02. Let's connect those nodes together, and this complete dialog is going to use the player input, and it will not auto start again. That's a great question. What they do? So actually, if you hover over the value in the row duration node, there is a small tooltip which explains the logic behind it. The duration will use the value of the row sound. So if you have like audio, cue that have captured a sound of the voice or whatever, is going to use the duration. If you use override, which you should use every time unless you have the audio, is going to use this value instead, the row duration. You can add time, and the add time is actually working the way that it adds time to the duration of the actual sound. And calculate is working the way that it's going to calculate how many characters are in the text, and it's going to calculate the duration automatically by simple formula which says 100 characters are taken 8 seconds. So if the raw text has 200 characters, it's going to take 16 seconds. So let's save it again and let's give it a shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the dialog itself, and I'm going in the dialog while the play in editor is active. You can actually select the NPC that has the dialog, so you can actually see which dialog node is currently active. So I'm going to select this, and you can see it went to player's node. Now we are again in NPC node, and it's going to take a while. And now we'll have an option to select the answer again. And now it's going to take 100 seconds. If I press X, it has finished the dialogue and I'm out of it. So let's actually take a look how the skipping works. As I shown in the very beginning, all the logic is hidden in the word settings in the game mode. The actual game mode is in the example folder, and it contains the player controller, player state, HUD class, and default pawn class. The default pawn class we actually we have already been through. This is how we start the dialogue. This logic, by the way, I said it in the very beginning. This logic should not be the game ready logic. This is just for testing purposes, and you should implement the dialogue trigger in different ways. You can reuse this function though. So what would I suggest is to make a child class of this blueprint and use it. Just use this function, and then we are also adding the skip mapping. Then we have the player controller. We open the player controller. Here is where we are initializing the HUD from the HUD class. We will get to that in a second. And in here, we are driving the skipping logic. So this part is skip logic. So if you want to add a skipping logic, you need to add it either to the player controller or to the player pawn. I would always suggest to add it to the player controller. So when the skip is triggered, and it's triggered thanks to the input, which is defined in here in the dialog input from the player, then we are simply asking what the state of the dialogue, and we are either showing or hiding the UI, and the actual skipping is defined. We go back to the dialog settings and into the configuration, and here is a time in seconds again, which says, hey, you need to hold the key for 1 second, and then the skip will finish. So it will be skipped after 1 second of holding the key. You can set it to whatever op value you want. It's up to you. It just must be larger than 0. And the coefficient for the calculation, how many characters, how many seconds it takes to read 100 characters, it sets here. So if you want longer or shorter durations, just update the value in here. For example, like 12 seconds, and now it's going to take 12 seconds to type in 100 characters. So that was the player controller and player pawn. Let's go to the player state, because that's the main driver of the whole logic. And in the player state, you must have the dialog manager. This is the most important thing. You do not add it to the player controller. You do not add the dialog manager to the player pawn. You always add the dialog manager to player state. You can reuse the existing player state that's in the plugin. That's totally fine. But you can create your own. That's okay. But you must add the dialog manager to player state. And in the player state, there are a few functions already defined for you. For example, when a user interface has changed, we are either adding it to the viewport or removing from viewport. What's a viewport? Viewport is the HUD class that I mentioned before. And in here, after we add or remove the dialog UI to the viewport, we are setting player's input and showing or hiding mouse cursor. So as you saw in the dialog, when the dialog started, I couldn't move around, I couldn't look around. That's for the more cinematic feel that the player is actually locked in the dialog and you can't move the character around. What you can do if you don't like this idea, you can just reroute straight up to the show mouse cursor yes, and you can completely ignore this part. As you can see, it's even wrapped in the command. Then there is other event defined for you, and that says when the dialog manager state has changed. What we do, we simply ignore the move input or look inputs, and we trigger those true or false. So if the dialog is active, we are ignoring look and move input, so you can't move or look around. And if it's disabled or enabled, the player manager, we allow movement around. Again, something that you can easily delete or change or do basically whatever you want. This is just how it's set up by default. And the very last thing is the hot class that I mentioned before. So let's go to the where the hot class is. It's right here. And the hot class, even though it looks very simple, it actually defines what will be shown, whether the dialog will be visible or not. In the last 5 or 6 issues on Discord, this was the main reason why the UI was not visible, and you must set up the hot class this way. Why is it so? Well, we could easily show the UI from the player state or from the player controller. However, Unreal works with UIs in a way that you can't show multiple widgets over each other. Well, you can show multiple widgets over each other. However, you can't say which is on top of different one. Basically, the one driven first will be on the very bottom and of the render path, and the last one will be rendered over everything else. No matter the Z order value, it doesn't matter if you have multiple unique widgets rendered over each other. That's why we have created this hot class with this logic. It contains the base WBP class. If we go to settings, you can see it's in here. It's called WBP viewport, and it doesn't really do much. As you can see, oh, I got very crazy settings here. As you can see, it's just a canvas panel, nothing else. In the blueprint, we can add child to the canvas based on the Z order we want it to be rendered on. As you can see, in the hot class, we are asking, hey, please can you add this child widget with this Z order and those anchors and this margin to the blueprint, to the viewport, please. And this is and of course we can remove the widget. And this is how you can have multiple UIs, like health UI, dialog UI, and inventory UI, being all basically wrapped inside this viewport widget. And if you have multiple UIs inside this one, the Z order will be taken in count, and they will be rendered in their correct depths. So the hot class must be set up, player state must be set up, player controller must be set up, and player pawn must be set up. In player pawn, all you need is the participant component with the proper gameplay tag. If you want the skip in the game, you need to add mapping context with the dialog mapping context, which is already here. And you need a way how to trigger the dialog itself. How to trigger the dialog itself? You can reuse this function from the dialog character, which doesn't do really much. It just asks the player state to start the dialog. In player controller, all you need to do is initialize the widget. Now the widget is the viewport, and again, if you want the skip, you need to use this this part. In a player state, you must have the dialog manager component, and you should have this very part, which is defined in here. Rest is optional. And last one, you should have the HUD class, and you just need to have this very HUD class. If you already have your own HUD class, you can either make it child of this one, or you can make you can implement the interface, which is called Mountea dialog HUD class interface, which provides you with those events. So no matter what HUD class you have, go back to the player controller, you can see in here we are just getting your HUD class. It does not really matter what class it is, and we are calling to the interface to initialize the viewport. So if we go back to the HUD class, you can see it calls to this event, initialize viewport. It's creating the user widget, and it does all the fancy logic inside. So if we go to the Word settings, in your game mode, you should have player class with participant component, HUD class, best case the one which is in the plugin, or one which inherits from it, player controller, and player state. All those components are absolutely necessary if you want this logic to work properly. So now let's take a look at some of those questions. How to save and load the dialog state. Actually, it's very easy. If you go to the content browser. Oh, hello there, Andrea Bucket. Nice to see you guys. You can add a new parent class, and it's called save game. And you create new save game blueprint. This is the standard, most vanilla way how to save a game. In here, in blueprint, you create a new variable, and you call it manager state, and you say, hey, saved manager state, and this way you can store the data, or even better, if you don't mind about having a little bit larger save files, you can actually save the whole actor. You can actually save the whole actor, and automatically the whole dialog component, manager or participant, will be saved with it because they are marked to be savable. About the other part, whether the dialog has been already displayed or not, sort of yes, there is a way. There is something what's called decorators, and you can add decorators to the whole dialog, or you can add decorators to unique nodes. So we can add a new decorator in here, and we can say, hey, I want to allow this node to be played on for the first time. As you can see, some nodes, let me add another one, like this one. As you can see, this node has a magnifying glass. Decorate, actually make your own. can go to the definition and I can open it, or I can close it and open it using this icon. And as you can see, the allow only first time. This says, hey, this node will be visible only if it's a first time. So if you want this part of the dialogue to be visible only for the very first time, like, hey, welcome player, my name, like the introduction. You don't need to play the introduction every single time, right? It would get annoying. So you would wrap one part, some part of the dialogue with allow only first time, and that would basically skip it for the rest of the game. If we go to the participant, it's not visible in here, but we can go to the blueprints and I will quickly show you. If we get the participant component, yeah, you can get the traversed path. What is a traversed path? Let me break it down. And the traverse path is basically an array of all information, which node in which graph has been already traversed through, and how many times you have been through that node in that graph. So if we play this dialogue 100 times in the game, the start dialogue node will be in here with its own GUID, which is this 91D to whatever, with the graph GUID, and it will have traverse count of 100. So this way you can easily take a look if a specific node has been traversed through or not yet. This information gets saved to the participant after you finish the dialogue. So if the game crashes during the dialogue, or anything happens, or the PC goes off or whatever, it won't get saved. It's storing all the information in so-called dialogue context. And the dialogue context is basically a payload object which exists to contain all the information relevant to the dialogue. So we have an option to verify whether the node has been traversed or not. I believe the dialogue, yeah, and you can get the traverse path in here as well, and you can it's the same data as in the participant, because to the participant it gets saved after the dialogue is finished. So it basically from the dialogue context, it goes to the participant and it's stored in the participant from now on. So this way you can take a look if node has been traversed, and I would suggest to do it in a decorator. What you can do in the decorator, let me actually show you how to make one. Again, in the Mountea dialog menu, you go to decorators and create new one. You can create new one from scratch, or you can use first time based, whatever. Most of them have some comment which explains what they are good for. If you're not sure, you can start from the base. Every single of those decorators can be recreated from scratch. This is just to make your life easier. So let's make new decorator, and we can get in the function called evaluate. The evaluate decorator basically works the way it returns true or false. If the evaluation returns false, the node which has this decorator attached to will not start. If it returns true, the node can start. And how does it work? Before the node is executed, it will evaluate every single decorator. So if there is two decorators, one says, hey, you can execute, and the second one says that you can't execute. The no has always the higher value than yes. So it's every time there is a false flag, it will immediately say, hey, no, this node can't be used, and you must either select different node, or the dialog will end right away. You can and in here there is, okay, here is the in decorator, but maybe let's find it in an easier way. So under Mountea section there is a dialog, then there is a decorator, and in here you get the owning node. And you know the participant in the decorator as well, in the very same way. So Mountea, dialog, decorator, and in here the get owner participant. And you can get also you also can get owning graph and owning actor who owns this decorator. It most of the time is going to be the same as the participant owner, but in some situations you might want to get the owner because it's going to be the NPC blueprint, and you might want to execute some logic in the NPC. So you can get the participant, and you can get manager, like type. And you can get the dialog manager. And here get owning world. So this is one of the ways how you can get the manager. You can also get the manager from the participant, because the participant always knows what manager it is being related to. And this way you can get context. Let's make it a bit more readable. It's not needed. And from the context, get traverse path. And here we can take a look if it contains item. And from the owning node, get node GUID. And oh, this is actually okay. So let's. Oh, this is not allowed. Sorry. So we need to do it in this way. So let's break it down, and if node GUID equals this, let's have the branches let's return true. So this decorator, let's make it nicer in here. This decorator would return true if the node which is attached to this decorator has never been traversed in the context, and it returns false if it has been traversed at least once, therefore it is in the traversed path. What you can do, you can actually have a variable. It says max traverse amount. It would be an integer. And what you can do is, if traverse count is greater or equal to this value, let me make the code and quickly explain what I'm trying to do in here. So what does this mean? What you can actually specify how many times the node is allowed to be traversed through. So if you have an NPC which is annoying or being annoyed by the player, and if the player asks the same question 100 times, you can actually say, hey, I am disabling this dialog option whatsoever, and you basically screwed up. And how do you actually set this traverse amount? Because it wouldn't be really clever to make it like 5 in here and make decorator for every single every single option in the game. In the dialogue itself, in those decorators, yeah, you select the decorator you just created, and you can see there is an arrow next to it which expands, and you can actually select the value in here. So you can select the value per node. So let's say, hey, this in here he is very much the NPC is very much friendly, and you can say in the next row he will be less friendly, and etc, etc. So you can actually set dynamic values for each decorator. And how to actually make dialogue between multiple NPCs and player. It's the same logic as one NPC. The only difference is in the data table. I go to the data table. It's the gameplay tags, which are defining what NPCs are related to the dialogue. So if I added a new row here for NPC 3 and had different tag, then other NPC would play this information, and it would require a little bit more customization on the code side from for you. For example, if we go to the player and we go to the function start dialog from player, in here you have option to add other participants. So if you the best example from my point of view is Witcher 3. You have like two NPCs standing close to each other, and they would be in some trigger box or something, and you can get all NPCs in the trigger box and just move them in here. So you would just make array, and you can add multiple NPCs to this array. You just need to get those NPCs somehow from the game. Once you have those NPCs, for every single of those NPCs, there will be the question, hey, can this NPC participate in the dialogue? And every single NPC which can participate in the dialogue will participate in the dialogue. How it defined whether the NPC can participate in the dialogue is actually fairly simple. The NPC must have enabled state, and that's all. So I hope I answered both of those questions. Let me know if there are any others. So just to summarize everything, let me go over the map once more. We have NPC in the level, which has the dialogue participant. In the dialogue participant for the NPC, we have a dialogue which the NPC is owning in a way, and a tag of the NPC which defines who the NPC is. This gameplay tag is important because in the dialogue graph, if we open it, we use data tables to drive participants of the dialogue itself. If we open the data table, you can see that those tags are defined in here. And once we start a node, from the pool of participants which are set up in the player, or they are set up in the beginning of the dialogue in here, the main participant plus other participants, we simply get the one which has the tag in here. From this row, we go to this row and we say, hey, we are looking for Lily. And there are, for example, 3 participants. It's player, Lily, and Charles. And we get the Lily based on the gameplay text, and Lily will play the audio from her audio component, and she will say all those nice things. That's why you must set up the gameplay text. In the next hotfix version, it will be the main way how to, and actually the only way how to define who is at the very moment the active participant of the dialogue. You have multiple nodes. The lead node is usually the NPC node, and it has the auto start set to true. Counter node is usually the player node, and it has auto start set to false. This defines whether it's going to show the selectable options on the right side of the UI. You can add decorators, which can trigger some logic, which can block branches of the dialogue from executing. If there are, indeed, there are options. Let me quickly jump in here. I've prepared 3 dialogue rows. And the very basic dialogue row is in here. Let's go to the designer, and it has an icon and the text. And if you go to the blueprint, it actually gets the icon from dialog data row, which, as you can see, dialog data row, which is being passed on creation, and is being passed from creation from the dialog itself. If we open the dialog, oh, sorry, it's I believe from options container. Here, yeah, we initialize dialog options, and it creates all those options for you. Those are being shown in this container over here. And on the creation, yeah, in here you got the data. And if we break this data, you can see you have everything, like row optional icon and everything. The row optional icon is defined in here, and you can actually get the additional row data, and it's, I believe, used in this one, and it's in the set new widget row data event. In here, on the row data, we are getting the icon, and then we are getting the context, and we are getting the actual row, and from the actual row we are getting the additional data. So from here you can get easily everything you want, because the additional data, if I go back in here, is additional data class that you can create. And let me actually create new additional data for you, just to show you how it looks like. Yeah, it's in here. So you can add, sorry, it's not this one. Velcro. Okay, I misclicked, I guess. Oh yes, sorry. It's in here, additional data, and you can select the BP, the additional data, or the default additional data. The default additional data is empty. So how to actually add custom additional data from? You create a new blueprint class. In here, you search for additional data. You select the base class, and you add new variables in here. So whatever actually make it easier for you. So I'm going to add 4 booleans. don't mind me, please. This is just for showcase. Here I add new configuration, additional data, and as you can see, I can select the new blueprint that I just created as definition of the data. If I select it and open it, you can see it now has this configuration inside baked in. If I go here and select this boolean to integer, compile and save, go here, it's most likely going to crash the engine. Yes, because Unreal doesn't really like if you change this data in runtime. But don't worry, I've saved everything. So in a second, yes, let's skip restore everything. If we go back to the dialog, oh, this is the decorator. I don't want this. Okay, so let me create new additional data again. Select the new blueprint, and you can see now it's an integer. So I can you can actually create additional data easily this way and pass them the UI to players everywhere. In our game, we are using this additional data for animations. So animation. Yeah, it seems that I can't find anything in here right now. Animation. Let's use a montage, for example. Yeah, and the montage, object reference, compile and save. And if we open configuration again, because I didn't change existing attribute, I added new one, you can actually use a montage and execute the montage based from the decorator. So that's what additional data are being used for. If you want to see actual implementation, how to use the additional data, let's go to the dialog row underscore with icon. And in here, if you go to the graph and go to this very branchy blueprint, in the very bottom, from the dialog context, we are getting the active dialog row. From the row, we are getting the additional data and cast. And from the class, actually avoid the casting by get object by class, the additional data container, and you can actually use this one as a target rather than casting. So this is a little hack for you. This comes with the dialog system, so you can use this one, and it's the same as get component by class, for example. But back to the topic. In here, you are getting the texture from there, depending which one you want to use, and setting the brush from the texture. So if I decide to use this row, I go to the dialog itself, I go to the graph, I go to dialog, I need to change. Oh, I need to change the map actually. And easiest thing I can do is change the map to the example map. It's not save anything. And if I oh, there are some compilation errors. Let's take a look at them. Yes, I broke it. Sorry for that. So if I play now and go to the NPC, you should see in a second that there is icon of the player, and you can see actually who is talking, and the icon and the name of the NPC of the speaker is being changed dynamically based on the additional data. if we go to the data, to this data, you can see that there are textures. There is like player texture, and there is for NPC, there is NPC texture. So this way you can move, you can show different icons for your player or NPC. Audio is coming every time from the same NPC. Okay. In the example level, there is this environmental dialog. If you press caps lock, and you can see that different NPCs are talking based on the UI above their head, and the audio seems to be coming from the NPC which is talking. So not exactly sure what's going on. The best way how to debug this is to take a look together. I will write it down and we'll take a look at the audio issue for you. And just quick question: are you part of the Discord server? For so if yes, just ping me on issues or helping hands, and we will take a look at this together. So dialog text fonts. Fonts are super easy to set up. You go to dialog settings, in here to the configuration, and select subtitle settings, subtitles font. You can change the font to everything you want, and hopefully fine. Now there is a difference. Everything regarding the configuration is set in the config file, which is in the project settings. You can set up basically everything in here. And Trevor is the creator just created. Example how it works talking to NPC. Yes. It wouldn't jump to the next. It wouldn't jump to the next dialogue. It would basically stop there with the current decorator. You can actually try this right away with the dialogue. You can add the one that we have just created and say, hey, let's put it to 1. I just hope that this marketplace version contains all the fix for this issue, because on the Fab version the allow only once is not working, and I'm waiting for the hotfix to solve the issue for you. And I think I screwed up because I have this one to be set as start node. So we are not able to get to this one anymore. Let me quickly explain. Save as a start node will basically set this node as a new starting point. So if I close the dialog and get back, it should start from this very node. She already responded, so if I say and if I go back, you can see it started from this save start node. So it's basically the very same logic. Instead of just saving as a start node, you say, hey, no, this has been traversed already once or twice, just return false, and it won't start at all. And it will block the dialog going from that point on. Custom UI. Oh, of course. Let me quickly go to the UI and actually actually, let me go to the settings for you again. In the default widget, and the default widget class is, if you create your own, you can just place it here. You can see there are different options. If you create your own, or if you want to update existing ones with a common UI, it's super easy. This this selection is filtered to all widgets which implement a specific interface. You can select the dialog, go to interfaces, and you can see is the Mountea dialog WBP interface. So if I create new WBP in the dialog folder, just user interface, whatever, as you can see in the configuration, it's not visible. But if I open it and go to settings and add the interface, and compile and go back here, you can see it's now visible. So this is how you define your new dialog UI. And just keep in mind that this dialog UI has been crafted with quite some time. Oh, it should be here. Sorry. So you need to take a look how everything is implemented. For example, to create dialog widget, there are some events which are passed from the C++ code. You can find those events in project settings in here. They are called commands, and those are the default C++ commands. If you try to delete them, it won't allow you to delete them because those are bound to C++. And as you can see, every command, actually, well, most of those commands are doing some logic. So if you call from C++, if we call create dialog widget, what does it do? It creates the options container widget, and it creates dialog row inside of the UI. And as you can see, it's getting those classes from settings. So if we go to the WBP dialog, to the class settings, sorry, to class defaults, if we collapse everything, Mountea, okay, here we go, Mountea dialog, and in here you define your base classes. So if you want to use different container, for example, all you need to do is just in your base UI class, I would suggest to use this default WBP dialog and just modify it or duplicate it and modify it. And in here, you just select the different classes. And that's how you modify. That's the easiest way how to modify the UI. Those default UIs, those selectors, as you can see, are filtered as well. And as you can see, like dialog option, there is this dialog option. For example, if I go to class settings again, you can see it implements a dialog option interface and dialog focusable widget interface. So this dialog option interface, I guess you all can guess, is what defines what options are can be selected to the as option class. As you can see, there is a rich text as well, which can be selected here. So if you want to recreate or change some UI on your site, feel free to do it. All the logic is handled for interfaces. There is no hard coding. There is no class locking. Everything is bound to interfaces. You just need to implement those interfaces, and everything should work out just fine. If something is not working properly, just ping me on Discord and we can take a look at your implementation. Or feel free to push your changes or updates to the GitHub repository if you want to share your UI with other people. So if that's all, you have it. You have lost 1 minute of my time. uh, Totally fine. As I said, just ping me on Discord and let me know if anything's not working. The whole architecture of the whole system is meant to be as modular as possible. Everything is interface based. Even the participants, even the player manager, everything is based on interfaces. If we go to our folder and create a new blueprint of manager, dialog manager, I guess, of the dialog manager, and we open it and go to class settings and scroll to interfaces, you can see there is dialog manager interface. So everything is based on interfaces. So if you want to, you can actually override, as you can see, a lot of functions, and you can make your own manager. You can make your own participant, which can greatly expand the base logic which is in the plugin. Okay. So thank you for your appreciation. I'm really glad to see so many people in the chat. Looking forward for some more questions on Discord. If this session was helpful, let me know on Discord, and we can schedule those sessions to be more frequent. It can be every week, every month, depending on your needs. We can go in more detailed troubles. We can actually in those sessions we can solve one person's specific issue, and in the future definitely we can take a look at the interaction plugin and the documentation plugin and inventory plugins once all those are released. So if there are no more questions, thank you everybody for your time, for joining this very first premiere session. Join the Discord channel and have a wonderful rest of the weekend. Bye.